And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 3, episode 18. And one of the big topics of the season on the men's side has been the UAA. And it's an incredible league always. It's extra incredible this year, it seems. And the race is just fun to watch. I thought it'd be a good time to bring in a little more UAA conversation. And please help me welcome Luke Flockerzi, the head men's basketball coach at the University of Rochester. And Luke, the first thing I have to ask you, I feel like I'm saying it right if I say Flockerzi. There's kind of like a little T kind of thing that happens at the end there, even though there is no T. Am I saying your name correctly, Luke?
You said it perfectly, and that's impressive. It says something about your preparation and how seriously you take your show because most people don't get it right.
Well, I tell you, I have to credit the national committee chair. So Sarah Quattrocki told me about this T thing when I was talking to her. I said, "How do you pronounce that name exactly?" She's the one who gave me this hint. So shouts to Sarah. Luke, this is a fun season. Uh, there's a lot of attention on the UAA this year because of how incredibly deep and balanced it is, and I want to get into that. But just overall, I mean, would you agree this is a crazy season in your league?
Yes and no. I think that the way that the external world feels is how coaches in the UAA feel every year,
Sure.
and I think it's what really sets our association apart. And we get compared to a lot of different leagues, and I can tell you that day in, night out, there's not a single game that's easy. Some of it's the travel, some of it's the extra day in between games that gives our coaches a chance to prepare for opponents. But the level of competition, no matter who you're playing, 1 through 8, is really, really high almost every year. And so it's nice to get a little bit more kind of awareness of that and recognition. But I would say that, whatever school you pick, like, whether it's me or Jason Zimmerman, we're going to say, oh, that's not an easy game. I've had a hard time there, and so I think it's just the quality and depth of our league. And it's what really makes us special compared to, other conferences is kind of your last place team is going to give you a real test.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. As an outsider, we look at these leagues year in and year out. To you guys, this is just business as usual. Kind of looking at it from the outside, it just seems like, in particular, this year, when you look at the quality of the teams, and I don't even know who the bottom is. I'm not sure who the bottom is at this point, honestly. I mean, uh, Chicago just went and won at Case. So like, where's the bottom? No clue. I think Illinois Wesleyan's a pretty good team. We had a whole bunch of trouble winning at Chicago. With that was an overtime game. Um, every year in a league like that, as you kind of go through that grinder, it's kind of fun though, right? Like, it's hard for you and your team, but isn't that a lot more fun than a league where there's 3 games that are just almost easy W's before the game even starts? I mean, talk through that part a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we as a program have really just bought into the idea of enjoying competition and loving going out there and competing and knowing that we're going to have to bring our best if we want to win in our conference. And I think it's something that last year's team, in particular our 21-22 group, really, really just embraced and thrived on is just let's go battle and leave it on the floor and kind of just accept the result at the end. And I think it's what helped that group kind of reach its potential as a team. And so, that's true every year. I mean, the league is really exciting this year, and I love that. Again, external people are grabbing onto different schools in our league, saying, "Oh, they have a really good team this year. They have a chance to win." I think it just speaks to the quality and the depth of our league, and it's great that those schools are getting some recognition. But you almost have to take a step back and say, "All right, I've been in this league 13 years. 3 teams have won it." So
Right.
it's you're probably starting there when you're picking favorites, and until someone knocks off one of those, it's just everyone can win every night, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the league.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I want to get into the UA a little bit more as we go. You mentioned 13 years. Doesn't doesn't seem to me like you've been there 13 years. It seems like every time I have a coach on that's been here like more than 10 years, I just have to pause and say, like, where did that go? Um, does it seem like that to you? Has 13 gone by pretty quick?
So coaching as a profession is this crazy cycle. And like I can tell you what I'm doing at every time, at every point of the year, where I'm going to be. But what I do over the course of the year is completely different. And so I think just because we're on that academic cycle and the seasons are so short and so long all at the same time, it's just like a fast forward button. And so
Right.
like I can't believe I've been here for 13 years. I've been a head college basketball coach for 16. I've been coaching college basketball for 22, and I still feel like I'm a player. So
Right.
it goes incredibly fast, as you know.
Let's kind of start there. You mentioned playing Division III, and you played at Grinnell. So we have some things to get through there and kind of talk a little bit. The one thing I don't know is, where did you grow up? Where are you from? Where did you come from when you went to Grinnell?
Yeah, so I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm a first generation American. Spent my first 18 years of life there and was not a high level basketball player. And so, I knew that, I wasn't going to get a Division I scholarship, and I wanted to go to a quality academic school. And, the Division III landscape, as we all know, in the Mountain West region is kind of an abyss. I think there's one school total. And at that time, that school didn't have a league or a conference or anything. So, I knew I was going somewhere if I wanted to continue my basketball career, and mostly considered Midwest schools, and kind of took my final visits back in the old days when you could apply to schools and find out where you got in and then visit schools after the fact before you made a decision. And just my visit to Grinnell was special. And so it was kind of a head scratcher to my family and some other people, how'd you end up at this small school? But it ended up being the perfect fit for me, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
When you were getting recruited there, they were already well into having developed the system and playing that way. I'm just curious, from a recruit's standpoint, was that appealing to you, kind of playing in this unique system, or how did you process that side of it as you were making your college decision?
Yeah, so I had some insider information. Chad Folsom is a Grinnell alum, who's in the coaching world as well. He was getting his graduate degree at the University of Utah, and he was helping out my high school coach on the side. He kind of identified us for Coach Arsenal. Me and my high school teammate actually went to Grinnell together, Cody Scarning, and so he kept telling Coach Arsenal, "Hey, these two are pretty good. You should have your eye on them." And he was able to really articulate kind of all the value. But I think the things that were appealing to me, that I came from a small high school, was just the kind of the intimate learning environment. Something that as an 18-year-old, I didn't put high on my list when I was kind of creating a list for what I was looking for in a school. But also just the family nature, and how close the team was, and how much fun they were having. It was obvious from the outside, just looking in, that it was a special kind of team chemistry and culture to be a part of. And I think those were the things that sold me on Grinnell the most.
And I have to ask you about March 2001, because I've told people that the loudest I've ever heard Illinois Wesleyan Church Center by far, like the most sustained buzz for 2 hours, was the Illinois Wesleyan Grinnell NCAA tournament game. As a player in that game, what do you remember from just the environment and the game? And that was really kind of cool. Like, what do you remember from that one as a player?
Yeah, no. So the perspective on it is a long story. Short version is we were kind of close to 500 my first 2 years at Grinnell, and then my junior year we finished last. We won 6 games, and so we went from worst to first my junior to senior year. And so it was just the kind of the atmosphere at Grinnell and the excitement around the team was an amazing way to finish. And we had a lot of success. We won a lot of really close games. And so making the tournament was just the goal, right? Like, let's win the league. And just getting able to play in the NCAA tournament for the first time was a special experience. And, obviously we got shipped to one of the favorites that year. And not surprisingly, our press works a lot better against 6 foot guards than it did against the height and the length that the Illinois Wesleyan team had at the time. And so they were kind of just pinging it over the top of our press without any real feeling of discomfort. So it was a long day, but it was a great atmosphere, and obviously the Shirk Center is one of the special gyms out there. So it was disappointed to end my career, but I do have fond aspects of the experience.
It was people still talk about that. Like, do you remember the Grinnell game? It was unbelievable how just loud that place was. Talk about how did you get then to Amherst? Because you started your coaching career, I believe, at Amherst. How did you go from I know you got your master's degree, right? So you went to UMass, you got a master's. The decision to go, like, did you know you were going into coaching when you were getting your master's, and then how do you end up getting into coaching?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone will kind of tell you how small the basketball world is, especially in the Division III world. And so I, like most college seniors, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was a psychology major, and my mom gave me great advice. She always told me, do something you're passionate about that doesn't seem like work. And so I was really thinking long and hard, kind of the fall of my senior year, and I really admired our athletic director at Grinnell. Her name was Diane Fairchild, D. Fairchild, and I just thought it was the coolest job. Kind of being a coach of coaches, and being able to be such an important part of the Grinnell community. And so I kind of said, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should get into that as a career. And so I researched the sport management programs for master's degrees, and UMass is widely considered as the best, kind of the original, and just applied and got in, and was excited about pursuing college athletic administration. And this is again how small the world is. My college coach, Dave Arsenal, played at Colby College in the
Right.
NESCAC for Dick Whitmore, sorry, who's coaching legend. And he actually played against Dave Hickson at Amherst College. They were roughly the same class year. I think Coach Hickson's 74 and Coach Arsenal 75. So my college coach knew best. He said, hey, I think you'd be really good at this coaching thing. And, so when you go out there, why don't you reach out, see if you can meet with them? I'll send them a note as well and just help out the team. And so it was the craziest year of my life. I was a full year, 1 year intensive master's program in sports management with a heavy business tilt. I was a teaching assistant to pay for the
Wow.
degree, and then just kind of slowly became more of a full-time assistant at the same time, as kind of the Amherst program, and Coach Hickson saw my values. So it was I think back to that year and wonder how I did it, but it was exceptional. And I think kind of by the day in the coaching world, I just knew more and more that I felt like I had a real impact on the student athletes there, and they gravitated towards me. And just seeing the difference I could make with those student athletes kind of inspired me to maybe pursue coaching as a path to be an administrator originally. And now it looks like kind of like my long-term goal.
When you got to Amherst, that's a really really high level of Division III basketball right there. I mean, the student athletes that you're around every day, and then the ones that you're able to go recruit, that's the highest of the high levels of Division III. What was that like, kind of getting exposure to that level?
Yeah, so I think one of the great privileges I've had is I've had a chance to work with some of the premier Division III basketball coaches to ever have done it. And so we can start by talking about Dave Hickson. And that was the most rewarding part of the experience with me, was working with him and learning from him, but also just in that environment. It's a elite academic school with some really, really spectacular student athletes. And and as and as most people have learned, just an extremely high level of basketball.
Yeah.
And so it just being in the NESCAC and being with the quality of teams that we had at Amherst College at the time, it made coaching that much more fun, just because we were achieving at a very high level, and I was able to work with student athletes who really understood why they were there and what they were trying to accomplish. And it just kind of cemented my love for coaching at this level. And so it was very fortunate how those dominoes lined up, and I couldn't have asked for a better starting place than with Coach Hickson.
And is it correct, like, you bounced for one season to Sewanee? Is that right? So you were there and then back to Amherst. What was the year in Sewanee? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's kind of you almost have to explain it away on your resume. So luckily I don't need to do that anymore, but it was, so there was no full-time assistant at Amherst College. And so I volunteered my first year. And then when I'd kind of loosely looked for a full-time coaching gig after that year at UMass Amherst. And, Coach Hickson kind of pieced some stuff together for me to be able to stay around for another year. And then that third year, it was a little bit more of an expanded role, and as they kind of saw my value. And then after year three, I actually took a job in the advancement office at Amherst College, and I was going to be able to do both. I was going to be able to coach and do advancement fundraising for Amherst. And long story short, my advancement job kind of got reorganized and my responsibilities got changed dramatically. And not only was I not going to be able to do what I wanted to do from an advancement standpoint, I also was not going to be able to coach. So, it's kind of not what I signed up for. And I was able to get a full-time job down in Swanee over the summer, and kind of a blessing in disguise. Had an unbelievable experience in the old SCAC, which was
Yeah.
a really, really neat conference, kind of in between kind of the UAA and SCAC
Yeah.
style with some flights. And I got to learn from Joe Toney, who was maybe the best defensive coach I've ever worked with. So just another step in what has been a really diverse basketball experience for me, and loved it there. Had it, was enjoying myself. But Coach Hickson at Amherst College was named the interim athletic director, and in order to kind of fulfill both duties at the same time, he asked to bring me back in more of a full-time capacity to help run the basketball program, and that's how I ended up back there. After the year, he went back to coaching basketball, and I kind of said to myself, I've had this experience. I've been here 4 years. If I want to be a head coach, I probably need to branch out a little bit. And was lucky enough to go to Rochester and join Coach Neer. Again, one of the best coaches to ever
Right.
do it, and get exposed to the UAA. So speaking to my basketball privilege, just like, having that NESCAC experience and that UAA experience, and kind of that SCAC experience to broaden my horizons and make me more familiar with the other parts of the country. I just feel very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you truly have worked with some of the best at our level, some of the best in the business. Really incredible opportunity. The people you've had a chance to work with. You kind of then your chance to run your own program came about. You get the Skidmore job. How I know it's really hard to get a head job. There's only so many, and when they come open, they're gold, and you got to do a lot of things to put yourself in position to be competitive. That process of getting the job, can you talk through that and kind of how you landed there?
Yeah, being a young coach, my first 2 or 3 years, I thought I was ready to have my own program, and obviously that's a tall task, tall ask, rather. And so, I steadily got kind of more and more sniffs for head coaching opportunities, and I think some people were scratching their head when I left Amherst College to come to Rochester, just because we were having so much success there. You went to two Final Fours, and in retrospect, it was a great decision. It really just broadened my base, and I think having that NESCAC and UAA experience made me even that much more marketable for head coaching jobs. So I was only at Rochester for 9 months, and I had that spring, I had a lot of head coaching interview opportunities, and Skidmore ended up being just a terrific fit. It was a really great place, great school. Athletic director Gail Cummings Danson, who was really bringing the athletic piece of Skidmore College to a new level, and it's an exciting time to be a part of that journey. And so, for a head job, my first job, it was really a high level opportunity.
And then the move to where you are now here 13 years later, the Rochester job. I think it was 2010-11 that it was your first season. When the Rochester job opened, was that a no-brainer? Was that like, this is kind of my dream job, this is what I want to do? How did you decide to pursue that, and how did that all play out?
Yeah, I definitely would not use the phrase no brainer. It was, so I was at Skidmore College for 3 years, and Saratoga Springs is a really great place. And the college was really, at an exciting time. And when I took over, they had won 2 games the year before, and everyone knew that we could compete at a lot higher level, and but I didn't have a chance to recruit that first cycle, and so my first season there, we won 6 games, and it was one of the hardest years of my life in coaching. It's like because I knew we were doing the right things, and I knew what we were doing worked, and we just weren't good enough. And so recruiting was a huge part of that, and got a great group in 2008, 2009, and we were playing almost all freshmen, and we had a lot of success. We went from non-competitive to very competitive, but we couldn't win with freshmen, and we couldn't get over that hump. And so my second year, we only won 8 games, even though we were right there in almost every game we played. And so having that breakthrough year with sophomores, the following season, my third year there, set the school record for wins. We won 16 games. We made the Liberty League tournament. We had a good chance to win it. And then I had that group coming back for 2 more years when the Rochester job opened. So it's a recruiting class that I'll always hold near and dear to my heart. And it was hard to leave. We kind of had just got to where we were working to
Right.
get to, and so just at the end of the day, the being able to have sustained success year in and year out, and be supported in a way that I didn't have to break my back to do it, was just too tempting. And so I jumped at the opportunity to come back. I was very excited to come back, but it wasn't without some mixed emotions about what I was leaving. And so just getting back here and being able to run the program here was kind of a pinnacle job. And it was, I don't have Division I aspirations. And so, being able to do it the way we do it, Rochester and the UAA is kind of as good as it gets for me, what I want to accomplish as a coach.
Look, to the point you just made about not having Division I aspirations, there's so many coaches in Division III that have made Division III their home. I can think of some of the legendary guys, the Mark Edwards, the Denny Bridges. We could just go on the list. There are people that easily could have gotten Division I jobs when they were, after they got their programs rolling and they were 40 years old, and they chose to stay in Division III. What is it about this level that you think like makes people like you just want to stay here?
Yeah, you can add Dave Hickson and Mike Neer to that list.
Yeah, that's a
um,
long list. Absolutely.
yeah. So you have a better perspective on it than most, understanding kind of Grinnell College a little bit more, and what I experienced there. I got into coaching because I had an unbelievable rewarding experience at a high level Division III academic institution. And so that's, once I saw the impact that I had at the student athletes at Amherst College, it motivated me. But when I think about what success means, it means, our student athletes having that same rewarding experience that I had. I think back to college, and of course I learned a lot in the classroom, but most things I hold kind of near and dear at this stage of my life. I learned through athletics, and I learned through being a part of that college basketball team. And so that's what I want our guys to experience, but I want them to do it with academics at the forefront. There's no confusion here at Rochester, first, second, and third. You're here as a student, and we're going to do everything we can to support you achieving at a very high level there. But we also take basketball very seriously as a close secondary pursuit. And I think that, this is my own personal bias, not having experienced the scholarship level, but I think even if you take a small step, quote unquote, up, that priority changes, and
Right.
basketball becomes the priority. And that's not why I coach. And so, like I said, being able to do it with the level of support and resource that I'm doing it at Rochester, and being able to work with high achieving student athletes who are here for those reasons, makes my life easier, but more fulfilling. And, it's just so exciting to see what they're able to accomplish on the court.
Really well said. Just the whole the balance, but not giving up the basketball part. Right. Like I traveled up to Wheaton to the Illinois Wesleyan Wheaton game over the weekend. I just spent most of the game thinking like, this is high level basketball. Like this is great basketball. Yet at the same time, there's just there's a feeling of balance and perspective that maybe doesn't exist at higher levels all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it does. So it's really well said on your part. Just the unique balance at this level, it is why people like you just want to build a career around Division 3, which is really cool. Let's talk about this year's team, which is really good. You're 13-3. You're 3-2 in the league. You're ranked number 11 in the top 25 poll. Not that that means anything to you, but to those of us that vote in the poll and things, we're trying to sort out where all these teams fit. It's been a really good year for you guys. You had to deal with a little adversity with your 6'10" grad student Ryan Algier getting hurt, missing probably parts of 5 weeks. In no particular, let me start with this question. I thought winning at Worcester when Algier was out was one of the biggest wins of the season. I mean, he had just gotten hurt at that point. I think that tournament was the first few games where he wasn't there, but that's a good team. You played him at their place, which is one of the tough places in Division 3 to win a game. Did it feel like the Worcester game was a really big one in that moment?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we have some experience learning to live without Ryan Algier. So, we were expecting him 2 years ago, and he tore his ACL leading into the season, and then we kind of, for the first half of the season, hoped he was coming back, and so we kind of had to learn how to redefine ourselves and win without him. And so, I think maybe it's lip service, but a lot of coaches will tell you that when a key player goes down with injury, but you're going to get him back, it ultimately will make your team be better. And I think that it was a growing experience for our group. I think it gave us the opportunity to redefine some roles and to show some other people in the program what they could do. And being able to have success without him, I think not only gives us more confidence, but it takes some pressure off of Ryan Algier to think that he has to be all world. And so that game at Worcester was a pleasant surprise. It had a playoff NCAA type atmosphere and environment and intensity to it. Great competition both ways, and a lot of our guys stepped up and made plays. And so to get that road win, kind of last minute. I mean, we lost Ryan on Wednesday, and we won there on Saturday.
Right.
We had one of our wings playing our center position, so it was just kind of reassuring that we can achieve at that level. And then in the 4, 5, 6 games since, I think we picked up at least 3 regional ranked wins without Ryan Algier. And
Yeah.
so that's, again, kind of huge to say that we can achieve at that level. And he's slowly kind of working his way back. And, we're just excited to have him contributing again.
Your current team, just a few things about the team as someone that's watched you guys play a lot of times. You're very big, from a D3 standpoint, especially when you have Algier out there. But you can go 6'10", you got 6'5" and 6'6" and 6'8", and then you've got some guards 6'1", 6'3". You're big, you're balanced as well. Like, I think you guys would be really hard to prepare for, because your scoring balance is really good. You have several guys that can make a big shot at any moment, and you shoot. I mean, is this right? 509. You're shooting 509 from the field. To me, the 509 is a function of like balance. Talk about just how good you guys are offensively on the season.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of points there, but I think we're first or second in the nation in field goal percentage offense, and I think that's a testament to how we play. We in a kind of a era of basketball where teams dribble a lot and there's a lot of individual offense. Like
Yeah.
we still pass the ball, move the ball, and move our players. And there's also a great trust and belief in how we play and what we're doing, and that we're not looking for my shot, it's our shot, and we're looking for our best shot. And I think there's just a huge belief in that. And so we also have a really experienced group we can talk more about, but all those factors lead us to being, I think, pretty tough offensively. And our length certainly is part of how we play. Having a 6'5" point guard,
Right.
kind of makes that height equation change pretty quickly. So I think we had a team on the floor at Worcester where we were like 6'5", 6'6", 6'6", 6'6", 6'8",
Yeah.
and just by accident. And it was just like, and interchangeable is the other piece that kind of makes that height and length really impactful. Is we have a lot of guys who are multi-tooled, multifaceted players who can do a lot of things. So It's a fun group, and I enjoy the way we play. I think our players do because they have a lot of freedom within our construct, and I think it's a fun style of basketball to watch.
And let's talk about your stud Ross Gang. To me, if I was handing out a Yellow Jackets MVP at this point of the season, to me he does everything for us. 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He shoots 569 from the field, which is ridiculous for a perimeter guy. 6'5", senior. Talk about what Ross Gang does for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the best players in the country, and I know I'm biased, but to put up that stat line, shooting 57%,
Yeah, crazy.
especially without Ryan Algier on the floor, is really impressive. And he's really elevated his game since we got to UAA play too. He's been kind of our primary performer each game, but he does it unselfishly in the construct of how we play. And honestly, I've had that conversation with a number of guys on our team, Ryan Algier, Ross Gang, like, hey, we don't need you to shoot 58%. Like, you need to try to do a little bit more. So he's starting to kind of figure out where that line is and what he's able to accomplish. But he's been a special player for us since he came into the program. He's kind of a 6'5" utility infielder, to steal a baseball analogy,
Yeah,
who's kind of found a really nice role at our point guard position just because we call it a lead guard. He really can think for all 5 guys on the floor and kind of get our group organized, and makes really good decisions with the ball in his hands. So being in 6'5" with a 6'7" wingspan, and kind of having that be your role is kind of very unique. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that he's also our best defender. So he gets the best kind of defensive assignment every game, and he's had some really spectacular performances on that side of the ball as well. So I think he's an All-American type player, and certainly if he continues to play through the UAA the way he has, I think he has a good shot at being the UAA Player of the Year this year.
yeah, he is right in the middle of the UAA Player of the Year, and that's high praise because there are so many like superstars in your league. We mentioned Ryan Algier, but let's talk about him a little more. It's always so, to me, there's a few positions that are kind of separating positions at the Division III level. Boy, if you can get that great big guy, that's a hard guy to recruit and land. 6'10", grad student. He's been hurt good chunks of his career, kind of coming back from it now. You're bringing him off the bench right now. But talk about Ryan Algier.
Yeah, I mean, he was without injury his first 4 years, including the COVID year. So it's not like this is who he is, but unfortunately, going into that post grad year, he tore his ACL, and like I mentioned, we were hoping to get him back kind of mid season, and it was just clear he wasn't advancing at that pace, and he had a hard decision to make. He's incredibly accomplished student, a data analytics major, data science major rather, and who has aspirations to play professionally, and could have easily just gone on with his professional career on the court or off, and kind of decided he wanted to give it one more go with the extra year of eligibility. And so he's getting a 1-year master's in our data analytics program in our business school, and he's back. But I'd say we have a very good team without Ryan Algier, but with a healthy Ryan Algier, he truly makes us special,
Right.
and I think gives us a chance to have aspirations to compete for a national championship and make a deep run in the tournament. He's like you said, a difference maker. You just 6'10" with his skill set doesn't come along very often, and he helps everyone be a better defender. He helps everyone play better on offense
Right.
because he kind of creates for them. But he is almost a generational player. Like he's someone that we won't get very often, and just enjoying what we have with him now. And I can go on forever about the type of player he is. I mean, I'll just share that I think the most unique skill set is I've never coached someone who, at his size and length, so naturally catches and keeps the ball high and finishes.
Yeah.
It's just kind of who he is as a player, and that's really fun to play with because you can just kind of throw him the ball. So he's going to graduate as our all-time leader in field goal percentage, over 65%. And so it's a very unselfish player, good passer as well, and 2-time All-American already. And I think, without some injuries, he could have been a 3-time All-American. And for us, more importantly, he was also an academic All-American. So like many of our guys, a terrific student as well.
It's a great point you made about like his ability to catch it and keep it high. That's such a subtly important thing. I know in watching our games, we have a really talented 6'9" sophomore who's going to be fantastic. One of the things though that currently I'll notice is he gets himself in trouble because he doesn't do that. Like he brings it down low and a bunch of guards swipe at the ball and get it from him, or it's just I latched on to your comment because not everyone naturally does that. When you're in high school and you're 6'10", there's some things you can get away with in not being fundamentally perfect. But boy, he really is, isn't he? Like the way he just, I kind of put him up there with Sobel at Middlebury. Just like he's so good fundamentally, right?
Yeah, and they had a great battle this year. We played Middlebury and
Yeah,
in the UA NESCAC Challenge, and just seeing those two guys go at it,
pretty
it was
cool.
it was really really fun. It was a great game, both sides. Coach Brown does a great job, and Alex Sobel's certainly one of the best players in the
Yeah.
country. So to see them kind of battle, it was really fun.
One of your guys that fills an important role for you that's playing really well is Matt Wheely, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. You have several of these guys that kind of stuff the stat sheet, in a very kind of unassuming way. Matt Wheely shoots 57%. So we talked about your team shooting 509. I mean, here's another guy shooting a high percentage. He's a 6'6" junior guard. Can you talk about Matt Wheely?
Yeah, so Matt Wheeler, he has 2 years of eligibility left that we're hoping he uses. So he's kind of playing as a sophomore with the COVID year, and he's having a spectacular season. He came on late for us last year in his first year, well, his first real season outside of COVID, and moved into the starting lineup. I think 15 games in, and really partially with Algier not coming back, he's cemented himself as a starter and played well in the NCAA tournament at Marietta last year, and so we were expecting big things from him. There's more than a few times that he seems like he's our best player. But he's kind of that, again, multi-skilled, multifaceted kind of utility player. And I ask you, Bob, to tell me like what position is Ross Gang? What position is Matt Wheeler? Like I'm not
Right,
sure people say they're playing positionless basketball. We have positionless players.
right.
So that interchangeability is really fun. So he stepped in and has played some of our hub position with Ryan Algier out, and he's more naturally like a 3-4. And this is kind of how skilled he is. I think he might be our point guard next year. So, it's kind of he's having a great season, and he's a lot of fun to coach. And he's had some huge games in UAA play already. He had his career high against Case last 2 weekends ago. So it's just another piece to the puzzle that makes us a strong team.
And did you pronounce, is it Wheela? Is that how you say it?
Wheeler, yeah,
Wheeler.
Wheeler.
Okay. Shouts to JD DeLass. I'm gonna have to listen better next time to these names.
JC the last. JC is one of the best in the business. So
he's awesome. He's tremendous. Um, Mitchell Kirchner, 8 points and 4 rebounds a game. It's funny, these UAA connections. I think Mitchell went to high school with the guy at Carnegie Mellon, Nick Nikasian, right? There seems to always be all these UAA ties where these guys end up in different parts of the league that played high school together. 6'3" senior, again, based out of Ohio. He's had a really good year for you too, maybe in a little bit of more of a behind the scenes role when you think of some of these other guys, but he's a key part of what you're doing as well.
yeah, so we actually recruited both Nick and Mitch, and wanted them both pretty badly. So we were disappointed when he chose Carnegie, but certainly understand. But it's fun. Mitch and him were high school teammates, and had a really nice high school basketball team together. And Mitchell's filled a really important role for us. He's one of, if not our best shooters. So he really stretches the floor for us, and he's a really sturdy player. Last year, 21-22, when he got hurt, he was arguably our best player. He was playing at such a high level, and in the first game of UAA play, he broke his ankle and was out for the year. So another piece we were missing last year, and so seeing him come back and get to full strength and kind of play quality basketball certainly made our team better. But as you mentioned, guys focus so much on the first three we talked about, Algier, Gang, and Wheeler, that our complementary players are very often the ones who are making the biggest plays of the game and kind of helping secure wins.
A couple more starters that I want to talk about. Dan Messino seems like he's been kind of a foundation as part of what you've been doing. I've you've been watching your games a long time, and that name's been in there a long time. 7 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He's a 6'1" grad student guard. Talk about your grad student, Dan Messino.
Yeah, very lucky to have him in the program. He's kind of a different part for us. I've never coached anyone better at on-ball pressure, which sounds like a weird compliment, but he really impacts the game and changes the game by picking up the ball for full court and being able to pressure the ball and make the ball handler uncomfortable. And offensively, he's very talented as well. He's a winner. He's a competitor who really plays at 100 and makes winning plays, whether it's taking a charge or getting a loose ball or getting a steal at a key moment in the game. So he is one of what I hope to have be 3,000-point scorers on the team this year,
Wow.
and he'll be the first. He's very close. So he's a very talented player who just kind of fills a very important role for us, who maybe doesn't get as much of the attention, but doesn't it certainly doesn't speak to his value.
And another guy in a similar way, CJ Amsalam. Now you tell me how did I pronounce that
Perfect.
correct?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, okay, and he's a 6'8" senior forward, and I think that again very quietly he's playing an important role for you. Can you talk about CJ a little bit?
Yeah, CJ's a very talented shooter, offensive player. So he kind of gives us a different dimension when he plays our center position. And he's had some big moments in league already where he's really changed the tide by making a big shot or just competing for position down low. So I think that he gives us just a like almost a change up when he gets in the game and provides important qualities to how we play offense. It makes some of our actions just that much harder to guard just because he is so talented offensively that you can't kind of scheme it a certain way when CJ
Right.
gets in. So
Um, Talented cast. There's other guys that are on the floor as well, but that's kind of a core nucleus. One thing before we get a little bit more into the UAA, you mentioned the COVID years. We were talking about Ryan Algier. One of the memorable games for me during the COVID year was when you played Yeshiva, and it was unique to me. It was unique for a million reasons because they had that talented team and they were just trying to play games, and they had this national championship contender that, like everyone else that year, was kind of cheated by the pandemic, right? Like, well, what could have been thing, and so they're looking for games, and most of the UAA didn't play a single basketball game that season. I'm just curious as to what led you guys to try to play a few games, and how did that Yeshiva game come about? Because that was really cool.
yeah, I give our administration a ton of credit, both at the university as a whole and our athletic administrators, our athletic director George Vanderswag. They in the COVID era, it was so easy and people were so quick just to say no. Well, we
Right.
weren't going to do it. No,
Right.
we can't do it. Other people aren't doing it. We're not going to do it. And our group was very forward leaning. They didn't want to say no unless they had to. They didn't want to put parameters on things unless it was dictated by science and by our medical staff. And so, kind of no one ever said no here. It was like, let's figure out how we can do it safely. And so, in our league in particular, we were able to do a lot more during the COVID year than most. And we started to be able to play games. So, a great example of what I'm talking about is we didn't allow visitors on campus. And so we couldn't play games at home.
Right.
But rather than just saying we weren't going to play games, our administration decided, let's find out ways we can play games. So
Right.
we played some crosstown games. We played a game in Buffalo. And we actually hosted some of games down at it's called Blue Cross Arena. It's kind of
Yeah.
our minor league arena downtown. And so that's where we ended up playing Yeshiva. And we were just in the same boat as Yeshiva. Like, hey, who's out there playing? Who wants to play? Like, let's
Right.
figure it out. And we weren't allowed to travel because we had travel restrictions, but we were able to host them here. And luckily, Coach Steinmetz, who I've got to know and have a tremendous amount of respect for, was able and willing to bring his group up. And for that cycle during the COVID year with not a lot of games out there, it was a really, really fun high level basketball game. And That was a special team Yeshiva had, and it was a very good game. Came down to the wire, and
It did.
I think they made one more play than we did. So
It was a great. It
uh,
was during that season where like we were all just so desperate for Division III basketball, and what that was like such a cool matchup. And it was like you guys led a good chunk of the game. Gabe Leifer hit a left wing three that I remember as being a swing shot, and it was just it was like kudos to both programs for making that work because that was a difficult year on every front, and the fact that the two schools found a way to make that happen was amazing. UAA, here's how the standings shake up at this point. Emory's 4-1, you're 3-2, Wash is 3-2, Brandeis is 3-2, Carnegie's 3-2. Case is 2-3. NYU and Chicago are 1-4. Now, what I try to remind people is in a league like the UAA, where every team is good and there's no bad team, kind of where you've played is a big deal when you process the standings at this point. Like when WashU was 3-0, I kind of told people like let's pump the brakes here. They've played all home games. Let's just see what happens when they go on the road. And similarly, kind of on the other side, like I've been big on Carnegie Mellon. Like they won at Emory on the road, and they could have beaten you guys. That came down to the final minute, and then they come home and they win two big ones at home, right? Chicago and Wash. So, I mean, do you agree, Luke? That I mean, it's hard to win at home or on the road, but in your league, like you got to find a way to protect home court. And in every game is just like an incredible grind here. Like, just talk through this the UIA kind of season and how it plays out.
yeah, I think what's crazy is if Chicago doesn't beat Case, there would have been 5 teams at 3-2.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's shows you what a logjam it is. But I think the part that is not in your equation is the matchups. You know, some of it is just like styles of play and who
yeah.
matches up best with who. And so some teams are good matchups for other teams, and some teams aren't. You know, some teams really struggle with different styles. And so um, their Coach Wingen does a phenomenal job at Carnegie Mellon. He's our eldest statesman. He's one of the best coaches in the league. And it's fun to see him have a really good squad this year. They are very good. They dealt with a lot of adversity as well. You know, kind of Nick Nikasian coming back from injury, Kevin Sachs dealing with some injury as well.
Right.
So you know, them full strength is a really talented basketball team. So you know, I don't. Yeah, the adage is kind of you got to take care of business at home and fight for splits on the road, and that typically will get you, if you do the math, to about 10 wins. And typically 10 wins in this type of a UAA is enough to think you have a shot to win the title. So I think that is kind of our approach is, you know, let's make sure we take care of home and at least get a split on the road. And kind of that's where we are now. So
It would feel
um,
to me like 10 wins would. It feels to me like in this season that would do it. Now, who knows how this plays out, but um, it's just so again. There have been years where the bottom of the conference was just so. This year, again, right now, just standings wise, that's NYU and Chicago. NYU was just ranked in the top 25 a couple weeks ago. You know, they were the team we were all talking about for November and December. And I know Chicago's a good basketball team. So yeah, to me, it feels like with everyone's going to lose a bunch of games here. And if you could
yeah,
pencil me in for 10 wins, I think I might sign up. You mentioned styles, Luke. That's what another cool thing about the UAA. It's always like this, but especially this year, you literally have every style of basketball that you could imagine in your league. Now, outside of this crazy Grinnell thing that you played your basketball in, but outside of the Grinnell thing, the way that NYU plays, extremely perimeter oriented, and they really spread you out. They have this elite guard play versus the way Emory plays and the way you play, and there's some kind of in the middle, like Case. Case is kind of like a hybrid. Um, Kind of cool. Is it kind of cool as a coach having to prepare? Like every game you prepare, you're preparing for some dramatically different style from game to game.
yeah, I think that the diversity of style is one of the things that makes our league so special. So I think because we're not geographic, maybe that there is some more diversity. I think a lot of leagues let's say, a Midwest league, like you get a lot of the same style of basketball. We're
Yeah.
playing through the post, we're 3 out, 2 in, we're doing this, we're
Right.
playing defense like this. And so there is a lot of variation to how our group plays. And just thinking about our conference play so far, I mean, playing Brandeis on the road, we got crushed off the dribble. And then, we have to turn around and prepare for NYU, who is one of the top 5 3-point shooting teams in the country. And so we always say to our team, it's going to take a different skill set to be successful today than it was when we won yesterday. And, so being able to have that kind of group think and that mentality when it comes to scouting report and what it's going to take to win this game that's in front of us is, I think, fun, but it's also a kind of a big challenge. And so, now we have Watch U coming to town. They play 2 6-10 kids at the same time. Like that's
Yes.
completely different than what we just played with NYU. But to pause, I mean, I think, Coach Klatsky at NYU is a really exciting addition to our league. He's doing a great job already. And it's a very offensively pointed group. And, I think it's an exciting time for NYU basketball. And, Chicago, I don't know how closely you followed, but they were really banged up earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And so, they come in to this weekend 1-4, but if you look at their results, they could easily be 4-1. And so,
Easily. Yeah.
it's, again, like if people want to point to that, either of those is like the easy game. Like I would beg to differ. I mean, those are
Completely agree.
very good basketball teams. And we're going to have to play really well on Sunday to beat Chicago at home.
Chicago lost 2 like heartbreaking close home games. I think it was 2 weekends ago. And you're right, they could easily have 2 more wins at this point. And they're huge. They're physically like they go 1-5 with guys who are 3 inches taller than normal at each position. And so they just at times they have just a lineup of guys that are all 6'5" or more, which is pretty incredible. Not to give away your Wash U prep, but that is a tough matchup because between Wolf and Davitt, they've always got a 6'10" guy on the floor, and sometimes they're on the floor together. They have a lot of other size, and then they have Charlie Jacob, probably one of the more underrated guys around. He's just such a big shot maker and a pure shooter. Hayden Doyle, sophomore, is going to be a superstar. Maybe he already is. How do you approach that Wash U game?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a big test. It's one of the highlighted games on our schedule for sure. Watch you at home or watch you on the road. Like that's one of the most exciting games. We've had a great kind of rivalry and tradition over the years. I think we're the only 2 team programs in the conference who've gone to multiple Final Fours and achieved really at that pinnacle on the national scene. And so, going back to pre-2000, some epic Wash U Rochester battles.
Right.
And so, we had some great ones last year. We won a crazy one at their place and they beat us at our place. And, I'm looking forward to another, really, really fun game, hopefully Friday night crowd, and it should be one to watch for sure.
You just mentioned I have like 30 years of Division III plays in my head, but you mentioned you won at Wash last year. Was it you guys that won on the crazy last second play? Was it
Yeah.
yeah, it was like a really cool play design. Ball got passed from one wing to the other. Am I seeing this right in my head? It was a last second
Yeah.
shot, right?
Yeah. A pass that only Ross Gang can make. So
Yeah.
the pass was even better than the shot Trent Nordsay hit, but we kind of were in control of that game and like almost let it slip away at the end. And they took the lead and had to have some crazy buzzer
Right.
beater to win it. So it's that's what it takes in our league though. You got to play the final whistle and find a way.
Just a couple more things, and I do appreciate all this time. I know how busy it is trying to prepare for game day on Friday. Last season was incredible. You got a Pool C bid. You were in one of those unique positions where your winning percentage was kind of trouble territory for Pool C. I can't remember what it was like 660 or 670, but it was low.
Yeah.
Your strength of schedule and your RROs were through the roof, and I thought that most of us that follow along thought you were going to get in, but it certainly required conversation when your winning percentage was where it was. You beat Eastern, so you got sent to Marietta. You beat Eastern by 23. Boy, Marietta, you're playing there at the Banjo, one of the toughest places in the country. And I want to say you were up 3 with like a minute to go. I think they hit a 3 to tie it. Overtime game, you lose in overtime, but talk about just that Marietta game that you dropped in overtime in the tournament last year.
Yeah, we were at 670 winning percentage. We were 17-8, and ironically, we had a game canceled during warmups at DePaul.
Oh,
That
that's right.
So we were down a game, and debating what to do. And luckily, we picked up a game, and we were able to win it. We picked up a game the last week leading into our Emory game midweek. We went down to Alfred State, and I think if we don't get that win and change our
There's
winning
no
percentage
way.
to 670, we
Yeah,
likely that year don't get in.
right.
And so it was obviously the rest of our resume was very strong, and um, that the Marietta game was epic. And not a little bit more history on our side is we played at Marietta in 2017 in the Sweet 16, and with a really really special team, and we were able to knock them off in one of the
Yeah,
best college basketball games I've been a part of. Obviously Coach Vanderwall does an amazing job down there, and so it was just one of those knockdown, drag out NCAA wins in front of a packed house that was like you dream of. Like that's why you play basketball. And so to have a very similar game last year in the second round, it felt right. And as much as I was disappointed to lose, it kind of felt like the balance was where it was supposed to be. So the guard play that group had, as you watched and
yeah,
experienced, was phenomenal. And um, kind of had a chance to win it and secure the game at the end, and let it slip, which was disappointing. But I think that what I take away from that game the most is just the growth of our team and learning how to win without Ryan Algier and like Brian Ambolino Perez and Trent Nordsay, some of our
yeah.
seniors who stepped up. We were playing good enough basketball at that stage to make the Final Four, and so it was disappointing, but just proud of kind of the growth. And like I alluded to earlier, just the team really cherishing competition. It was maybe the team that I've had that did that the best.
Yeah, they were a fun team to watch, and Marietta game was unbelievable. And you lost, like you mentioned, boy, you lost talent off that last year's team, which makes what you're doing this year even more impressive because you lost a great player and multiple guys who helped you. Um, Final question on mine, then I'll ask if we didn't cover anything. You're the vice chairman of the National Men's Committee this year. When I talked to Sarah earlier this year, and I'm due to talk to her in a couple of weeks, she said that as long as you don't, well, I think this was my question, and she confirmed, as long as you don't screw this up, like you're going to be the guy next year. And so next year we can have more conversations about like the details. But I'm just curious this year, how do you balance coaching your team, and you've got a great team that requires your attention, that and then your vice chair role? How do you balance time with all this stuff going on?
Yeah, no, it's a lot, but it's worth it. The national committee, it's a great group to work with. We have a lot of fun. We work really hard to get it right, and so although it's a big time commitment and a lot of effort, it's a very rewarding professional experience just to kind of be on the inside of some of those conversations. And I kind of didn't realize until Mike Shower was presenting the national championship trophy last year to Randolph Macon. Just it's our tournament. And there's like a prideful moment in putting together a great tournament and crowning a champion. And so as a professional who has administrative goals as well, like that was really cool, and it is really cool and fun to be a part of it. But I learned a lot from working with Mike Shower. Obviously he had a very good team last year, and he was the chair, and had to balance both. And just kind of seeing him as a professional and how he handled it was kind of inspiring. So um, it's I don't think it takes away from our team, or I wouldn't be doing it. But it is, as a professionally, very very fun, and I'm glad I get that opportunity.
One thing that I've said pretty consistently is I thought Mike Shower did a great job of communicating the process and the criteria. I thought he went out of his way to make sure that people understood, and they didn't have to agree with all the criteria, but this is the criteria and this is how it works. I think Sarah is in the process of doing that same thing and even taking it to another level. I know that she's going to be on Hoopsville with her counterpart on the women's side. I want to say tomorrow. Um, do you agree, Luke, that like that's a big deal? And because what I'm seeing is coaches are are listening to that clarity, and they're changing the way their schedule is set up. For example, you see some teams that had low SOSs last year. I'm just going to pick two in particular: Maryville of Tennessee and Yeshiva. Their SOSs this year are incredible because they went out and said, okay, you know what, I need to schedule differently.
Yeah.
Do you agree, as someone that's the vice chair this year and going to be in this role, like people understanding this is a good thing?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So let me go from the beginning. I think Mike Shower is just naturally not a guarded person. And I'd say two of his best qualities are just his honesty, and he's very trustworthy, and and I think that just naturally kind of exuded from him as a leader, that he wasn't scared to say, this is what we're doing and this is why we're
Right.
doing it and this is how we're doing it. And I think that was very helpful to everybody in the whole process. And a ton of credit goes to him for that. But he's also kind of set a standard for, we don't need to be guarded about this. This is the criteria. This is how it's being implemented, and this is what you need to do if you want to be considered for a Pool C bid. And so I have already seen a shift in the national stage to how people are scheduling and
Yeah.
scheduling decisions that are being made. I think this is the most interregion play we've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Us, for example, we will have played 8 of the 10 regions this year.
Yeah. That's
So
incredible.
obviously our league helps, but um, I think just seeing the crossovers, Texas teams up in our tournament, like
Yeah.
it's really fun. It's fun for Division III. It's getting, you're getting more cross region comparisons when it comes to Pool C selections. And so, this is my 2 cents, and take it for what it's worth, but you can't have a very low SOS and win all your games and think you're going to get a Pool C bid. That's just not fair. All right. And you
Right.
can't play everybody and not win any games and think that you're going to get a Pool C bid. Right.
Right.
And so the sweet spot, my advice to coaches is it's somewhere in between. You got to schedule hard enough and to give yourself opportunities to get quality wins. But you can't schedule so hard that you can't get some wins. So I
Right.
was a little nervous for us this year. I think we overscheduled. I don't know if you've seen our SOS,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but that non-conference slate was pretty scary, and to get through that at 10-1 was a pretty big accomplishment. So I always err on the side of overscheduling and overplaying and playing people. Not everyone shares that scheduling philosophy. But I would encourage, kind of at least find a happy medium there, and it's going to position yourself the best. But I think I addressed
Yeah, no,
every.
it's really, really well said. I think it's important for people to continue to kind of dig into this. Um, last thing I'll say is I'm being recruited by some Rochester parents to get to a game there at the Palestra. There's kind of a package being offered to me of fun activities, and I'm trying to get this done. I don't know if it will work, but just I want to give a shout out to the Rochester parents. This sounds like a fun gang, no pun intended, hang out
Well,
with.
not surprisingly, we have amazing student athletes, and most of them don't fall very far from their family tree. So
Very
our
clear to
our
me. Yeah.
our
Very,
parents and families are tremendous, and they've been an unbelievable support system for our group over the last few years, and we're lucky to have them.
what I chose not to ask you about was paywalls and things like that. So maybe on another cute cast, I can get someone from Rochester to talk about paywalls. So I'm going to leave you alone on that. Um, in all seriousness, Luke, I really appreciate your time. I think people are going to really find this pretty fascinating stuff, like all the detail you went into. Um, Final thoughts on your end before we wrap the QCast up here.
We would love to have you in the Palestra. It is one of the most special venues out there. We do not charge admissions for our game; they're
Oh,
free.
that's good.
Yep. So we'd love to have you in attendance. It's kind of a mecca of Division III basketball. Naismith Hall of Fame named it one of the top 125 basketball venues
Yeah,
out there, and I'll listen to the modern and brand new arguments for this is a great gym, but if you value kind of character and tradition and like kind of
absolutely.
some unique feel to a well-kept old gym, like it doesn't get much better than our place. So it'd be really fun and special to have you here.
Would
But
love to.
I guess I'll just wrap by talking about the league. Like I feel blessed to be a coach in the UAA. It's a really a very special association. We have a like-minded group of not only schools but coaches who understand that we're kind of dependent on each other, based on how the league is built. And working with these coaches, they're some of my closest colleagues and people I truly respect. But obviously, when that ball's tipped, we all compete and do everything we can to knock each other off. And so, being in that environment as a professional is really kind of special. And it makes the day to day that much more enjoyable, and traveling to these cities and having these experiences, but being able to do it against schools and people that we respect, I think is really a value add to our student athletes. So it's a fun year in the league, and I'm hoping that there's been years where we've got as many as 5 teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe we could sneak a sixth this year. But it just speaks to kind of what we're doing as a group, and just really proud of the league as a whole.
Yeah, and kudos to you for the program that you've built. You inherited a great program, and you've built onto it over the course of 13 seasons now. Your team plays the right way. They're fun to watch. They play hard. It's clear you have really good student athletes in your program. So, folks, that is Luke Flockerzi. Remember to kind of throw the T sound in there when you meet Coach. That is the QCast Season 3, Episode 18. Luke, this has been really, really cool. I appreciate your time, and I do hope to see you in a D3 gym before this year ends. Fort Wayne, for sure.
Likewise. Thanks, Hugh. I appreciate it.
Thanks.